You should gamble. That's right, I said it. You all should gamble so you learn firsthand how stupid gambling in gacha games actually is. Gacha games have been around ever since whenever this thing was invented. And what was originally just a fun game you probably find in an arcade where you put a coin in and a flashy little toy pop out, has slowly progressed into cheap mobile apps to becoming one of the most popular gaming genres of all time, where kids can now gamble from the comfort of their own home. And it's entirely legal, if not completely normalized because everyone is doing it too. When we talk about traditional gambling regulations, they're designed to protect people from the addictive and harmful effects of gambling. These laws ensure transparency, limit access to minors, and most importantly, provide resources for addiction help. But gacha games are able to bypass all of this simply because you're not winning actual money. You're just earning a flashy character who can also turn into a turtle sometimes. Don't ask me about it, okay? This has led to gacha games having virtually no regulations at all, because in most countries, it's legally not even considered gambling because the prizes have no real world monetary value. And gacha games are designed to exploit this loophole to make you spend as much as possible. The randomly generated rewards and the visual and audio sound effects all mimic the same elements of actual slot machines. Look, they've even got them in the game too. The human brain loves surprises, and it's why gambling is so addictive. When you finally win the jackpot and win a new character, you feel like you're on top of the world. And that's because your brain releases a feel-good chemical known as dopamine. This same dopamine release drives players to chase that winning feeling, which is only amplified by the lack of regulations and other external factors. It's basically gambling in its worst possible form because despite how many times you lose, the game constantly entices you to try your luck just one more time. But when I say the word gambling, your mind probably jumps to casinos, Las Vegas, maybe even roulette. We've been taught that gambling is a bad thing, so when we look at gacha games, it looks like harmless entertainment because you can just earn everything for free if you worked hard enough. So it's not like people are actually going to get addicted over these games, right? The reality of gacha gambling has led people to lose hundreds, if not thousands of their own savings. While gacha games are free to play and offer you with a seemingly fair chance to win the must-have limited 5-star characters, it masks the fact that these games are essentially a glorified slot machine, with colourful characters designed with the sole purpose of making you spend money. For many players, spending £50 or more each month to obtain a new character is more common than you might actually think. And that's because they've slowly been conditioned by both the game and the community to believe that gambling isn't a bad thing, especially when winning the jackpot makes everything you spent seem worthwhile. If this goes unchecked, which it often does, this kind of behaviour can spiral into what's known as a whale. You might know what I'm talking about, but it's someone who pours massive amounts of money into the game and it only just goes downhill from there. And it's kind of terrifying to see how normalised this culture has become in the gacha community. Not only are many kids exposed to these practices, but even sometimes I find myself drawn into it. The actual temptation to pull for characters who I find cool, like Robin, Klee or Venti, it's really tempting, even if I know the risks involved. And the thing is that you can't just do one temple. You've got to keep going until you finally win. Until, you burn through your month's worth of primogems and you lose the 50-50. So yeah, thanks Mel, that's great. And the widespread popularity of modern gacha games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star has only led to more children and teenagers being exposed to gambling at a young age. And when it comes down to actual awareness about the risks of gambling, well, there isn't any. The majority of players don't talk about it, some content creators do, but there's hardly any demand for it, and the developers certainly aren't going to teach you to spend responsibly because the less you know, the more likely you are to spend. In fact, I'd actually argue that there's more coverage and demand for the gambling itself than raising awareness about its risks. This becomes even more concerning when you consider how kids, especially those who've never played a gacha before, get hooked into these games. Because they won't actually realise they're engaging in a form of gambling. Or, probably much worse, they might acknowledge it but not really understand what they're getting into. And who could really blame them? Gacha games are fun. They're designed to be. Without good combat, story, character design, world building, the same awesome soundtrack you've been listening to while watching this video, every aspect of modern gacha games have been fine-tuned to keep you wanting for more. Genshin Impact wouldn't be in the top 10 most played games of this year if Hoyoverse didn't know how to make a good game, which makes the gacha mechanics deeply rooted into Genshin even more toxic. The excitement and anticipation of seeing that golden glimmer makes you forget about how much you spent, because all you can think about is winning the most powerful unit in the game that everyone has been looking forward to. Gacha games wouldn't be so profitable if they didn't know how to manipulate their audience, even though the advertisements actually suck. Seriously, like some of these ads aren't even in my language. But it's exactly why there should be more regulation around it. So where would we even begin? Well, the most recent example and discussion on this kind of topic would be the regulation proposed by China in late December of last year. You might actually be familiar with some of these since they were primarily targeted to curb consumer spending on all live service games like Overwatch, Genshin Impact, and basically any loot box RNG style game which use addictive mechanics to keep players hooked long term. In fact, let's actually go take a look at the official webpage right now. Just, you know, search on Google. You should be able to find it, right? Wait, what's that? You can't find it? Oh, they removed it? And they fired the guy responsible for suggesting these rules as well? What just happened? These regulations, which were later thrown away in January, were designed to tackle live service games, which use things like day login rewards or purchase bonuses to get people addicted and spend as much money as possible. One of the proposed rules would have forced games with loot box or gacha mechanics to set reasonable drop rates and even cap how much you could spend in a day. Sounds great, right? So then, why did these rules get axed? Well, besides some odd backlash from the community, as soon as these plans hit the internet, the Chinese gaming market took a nosedive in stock value. Since gacha games are huge moneymakers in the industry, these regulations were quickly rolled back, and all public announcements about them were wiped. Like, I'm kinda surprised I even found this. There's a bit more to the story than that, but it's clear evidence at the time that we might never see proper regulations for gacha games. And what we have now hardly even qualifies as the bare minimum. Which honestly sucks because even small changes will never get implemented because money. The bottom line is that these companies profit massively by manipulating you to spend, and there's little to no incentive to make changes that would reduce their revenue. So then what can really be done about gacha games? Honestly, there's not much that can be done. Without a stronger push for gacha games to actually be regulated in the first place, which, let's be honest, isn't going to happen anytime soon, the gacha system is only going to continue exploiting players to develop unhealthy addictions on gambling. But that's not really the point of this video. We might never see better regulations for gacha, so it's why I really can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to be aware of these risks. At the end of the day, gacha games are undeniably fun, but without proper regulations, they're only worth playing if you can be responsible about how you play them. These games are plain and simple gambling, and they should be treated that way. Logically speaking, it would be better for you to quit these games entirely, but that would make me a hypocrite considering how much I actually play these games. So at the very least, just consider going free to play. I'd argue it's always more fun to play these games entirely for free, either because it makes the game more challenging, or more fun when you win a limited character. But if you have to spend on these games, you'll at least know what you're getting into, and you'll be able to make more informed decisions about how you spend your money. Anyways, that's all I really had to say, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.